So, thank you all so much for being here. It means such a lot to us. You're a really incredible group of generous individuals. Thank you so much for donating your time. I'm really delighted to have with us the founder, the co-founder and executive director of Kids Club Kampala, Uncle Sam, as we call him. And we've also got our interim CEO here, Linda. Um, so Linda's going to be leading on a Q&A with Sam, just asking a few questions about how Kids Club Kampala started, where we are now, and also, most importantly, where we're going. So thank you so much for, being here and for watching this video. And I think we'll just kick off. So I'll hand over to Linda.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for coming to listen to us this evening. It's a real privilege to be with you all, and thank you all for being here. Just to briefly let you know that I'm the interim CEO. I've been in this position for almost 3 months now. Gosh, time has flown by. And I'll be in this role until January. Our current CEO is on maternity leave. So it's great to have Sam with us all the way from Uganda. And so I've worked in the charity sector for over 25 years and now with Kids Club Kampala for this year. So it's been a great journey to be on, even in the last 3 months with Kids Club Kampala. And I'll hand over to Sam, who can give you an introduction to who he is and how Kids Club Kampala started in the first place over 11 years ago. Sam.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here. Thank you for sparing your time to be with us this evening. It's really a privilege to be speaking to you this evening. My name is Samuel Ambayo, and as mentioned, I am the executive director of Kids Club Kampala, but also one of the founders. So maybe briefly to share how we started with all of us. But maybe to start with my own story, because it's very hard to tell the story of Kids Club Kampala without bringing in my own story. So I was born here in Kampala around the 1983, and just after 2 years, I lost dad, and I was separated from all through my childhood, because I need to also cut the story short. All through my childhood, I have grown up in 5 homes, all 5 families. I was an extra burden to every family that I went into. So every family kept pushing the responsibility on another family. Every family kept pushing the responsibility on another family. So I have technically grown up into 5 families. And also to take through my education, my first, what we call the primary living examination in Uganda is the first examination that you do when you are going to cross over from 7 or primary to high school. So for my P7, I had the but we had one chicken that had survived. Usually there is a season where a disease comes. It's like a plague. It comes and kills all the chicken. But my chicken survived. Given it, and I sold that chicken and a small pocket radio to raise money to pay for my primary living examinations. That is how terrible the situation was. I was living with a very poor auntie, and the way I describe her poverty is this way. She was a smoker, and every time she wanted to smoke a cigarette, just one stick of cigarette, she would give me an egg to take to the shop and exchange for a cigarette. An egg, a small egg to exchange for a cigarette. That's the kind of poverty we lived in. There was nothing like money in the family. So luckily, I sat for my primary living examinations and passed very well. I got first grades, but again, I failed to continue for my high school. I was again lucky that when I registered for my high school and couldn't continue with my study because I had no money, one of the teachers asked me to come to school. And when I went back to school, I realized that the head teacher had given every teacher an opportunity to have one child study for free. It was like a head teacher offer to all the teachers. But however, the teachers would only take in their own family members, children from their families or clans. But I was lucky that I was not from his family. But he says he saw that I was a bright child and he gave me the offer to study for free. So that's how I managed to study to study my high school. And then if I can also bring in how I did my bachelor's. So for my bachelor's again, I met a Indian lady who had come here as a teacher and as a missionary. In our interaction, she said I was so kind, I was a good person, I deserved better. She had gone through some frustration while in the country. So in her mind, she was like, people like me deserve to be in better positions to help others. And she was like, if she had met me in a better position, I would have been able to help her. So she asked if I wanted to go and do more studies. And of course, I was always interested in studying. My answer was yes. And like I was supposed to look for a school. So she's the one who sponsored my bachelor's. And I did a bachelor's in commerce and information systems. So briefly, that is my story. I feel like I owe this world. I feel like I need to be there to serve more people. I need to create what they call a multiplier effect. What has been done to me, I feel like I should be doing it to so many other people out there. And if you picked me and dropped me somewhere, whether Singapore or in the US, I feel like whichever kind of work I would be doing, I would be serving humanity. I should be able to give back. I am a product of development. I know most of us could be having so many questions around development, but I'm a product of international development, basically. And so that is me. I met Corey and Olivia, who are also our co-founders. And being in Uganda and passionate to work with the poor, I introduced them to the slum communities. And in the slum communities, we realized that children were suffering. And unfortunately for me, again, going back to the slums, it's like I'd opened up more wounds in myself. I could see myself in the life of these children after all the suffering I'd gone through. So we discovered that there were no opportunities for the children to play, no opportunities for children to interact with elders. Unfortunately, in our community, elders do not interact with young children. And one of the sad situation is that when the elders are speaking to you, cannot look them directly into their eyes. They say you'll develop some kind of funny mannerism that is not good for the society. And then when they are speaking to you and you do not look directly into their eyes, they say, why aren't you looking at me while I'm speaking to you? So you get confused in the process. They do not want you to look directly into their eyes. At the same time, when they are speaking, they want you to look directly into their eyes. So you get confused in the whole process. So for us, this was like an opportunity for us to act with the young kids, show some love and care. And basically, that's how we started, by running Saturday Kids Clubs. And these kids clubs grew from 1 to about 8 kids clubs in all the slums of Kampala. And over time, we have evolved like that. So that's briefly the story of Kids Club Kampala. It's a story that could be familiar, but it's a story that is unique to us, a story that is on our hearts, a story that makes us who we are as an organization.
Great, thanks, Sam, for that. That's been really, really insightful and touching. Your story is you know, very true to the Kids Club Kampala vision and mission and what we're doing as well. So thank you for sharing that with us. I suppose we've come a long way since those first kids clubs in the slums. So, and I think now we serve over 4,000 children a day. How did Kids Club Kampala grow to where it is today, Sam?
Well, it's interesting. I think every time you're doing something good, people will really see that you're doing something good and they will become part of it. We began as a few team with a few members to support, but because we are community-led, we found ourselves, when I say community-led, I mean myself, for example, as the executive director, I'm a Ugandan, so I understand the Ugandan context. Then also the volunteers and the social workers are people who come from within those particular communities where they work. We actually do not crisscross, like you come from this community and you work in another community. No, it's not that way. It's people from within the same community serving their own people. So that's how we work. But again, how we have evolved is we developed a holistic kind of approach. For example, when we spent some time playing with the kids and interacting with them, we realized that actually playing very good, but they also needed food because we were playing with them on empty stomachs. Or they would go back home and sleep on empty stomachs. So that's how we introduced food as a program. And then, for example, we work with abandoned children. So many children are abandoned in Kampala. But how did we start to work with abandoned children? Is that one evening, after we had finished to play with the kids, we had also served them food. 2 kids could not go back home. They stayed at the center, and yet the social workers needed to close the center and also go home, only to interact with these kids and realize that they had been abandoned, so they had nowhere else to go. Luckily, they had stayed the whole day at our center because there were other kids playing. We were serving food. It was a good environment for them, but they had nowhere else to go. So that's how we evolved and went into the project for abandoned children. Then also, in addition to that, as we are working with these children, for example, we introduced a school sponsorship project to help them to pay for their education. But even as we are paying for their education, their parents could not even afford to buy them books. They could not even afford to buy them pens or pencils. And these are things that are necessary for the child to study well and stay in school. So we had to come up with an initiative together with the parents. We really interact with the parents and see what we can do. We had to come up with initiatives that help skill their parents, skill the mothers, skill the teenage girls. And currently we have a knitting and a sewing program for mothers and the teenage girls. But besides that, before we had what we call income generating activities that we used to give cows, we used to give kind of animals for them to keep at home, but also use them as a source of income. That's how we have ended up evolving and having multiple projects, but also serving so many children and so many community members. We have so many interesting stories that we can share with you. I hope, Linda, did you prepare a story for us?
Yes, I did. Well, this is a story of this woman called Hope, and she lives in Namavundu. And unfortunately, her husband didn't have a very stable job, but she made some crafts, but had nowhere to sell them. So life was really difficult, and they couldn't afford to pay for their shelter or basic needs really at all. So Kids Club Kampala asked if Hope wanted to take part in this women's empowerment group, and she agreed. And so she was part of this women's empowerment group that helped her find markets for her crafts and gave her some business skills as well, so that she could invest and grow her business as well. So after some years, Kids Club Kampala came along again and discussed with the community what the needs were, and they decided, as Sam mentioned, about livelihoods and a livestock project. So they were provided with a cow called Ganza and her 2 calves. And so basically Hope is able to sell her milk at the market. She's able to give milk to her children and improve their nutrition. But she was also part of the community where there were some water and sanitation projects. So with holistic approach, she has clean water, she has a livelihood, she's somewhere to sell her crafts, and also she's earning an income now and able to send her children to school, and her children are able to lead a much healthier lifestyle. And I suppose that's just one story from Hope, who's just one of the participants in many of the projects in Kampala. And I suppose it's this holistic approach that's really important and really key to the success of building communities together, as Sam said, and engaging with communities at that level. So thanks, Sam, for that. Now we want to just talk about the COVID issue. About a year ago, we were all forced into lockdown, and we're still here in the UK, unfortunately. Hopefully soon things will change. But that was really impactful in Uganda as well. COVID hit the world. COVID hit Kampala, COVID hit Vienna, COVID hit the UK as well. It hit everywhere. And the world changed rapidly. And the world changed in Kampala too, I think. Sam, you'll tell us. So how did Kids Club Kampala respond, and how did you survive during the COVID of last year and to date?
Well, I was actually following on the news about what was happening across the world. Unfortunately, for us, it looked like a movie, seeing things unveil in the UK, in China, in the US. It took longer to hit in Uganda as a country. Unfortunately, when we realized in Uganda that COVID had become real, even as a country, we took drastic measures. There was a sudden lockdown in Uganda. It was sudden. It took about 2-3 hours. The president made a directive that was supposed to be effective within a few hours. And for us in Uganda, and most especially the poor, it felt like the whole world had shuttered, had closed down on them. Because, you know, it may be hard for the rest of us to understand, but here people live on hand to mouth. What they make a day is what they're gonna eat. So if they do not work, they will not have food in their homes. That's how it is. Even for the few, for example, who have like credit cards, you have nowhere to use your credit card. If people do not, we do not have a market that uses credit card to buy things. even in restaurants. So when we had the lockdown declared in the country, it was like a disaster for the poor people. It was a real disaster. And there was also what suddenly also the president had made a directive that no one should be giving food. Nobody was allowed to distribute food. This was because of political reasons. And so it was such, a disaster in country that we had people with no food in their homes, but at the same time, we had a directive to give food people food. If you could have as Kids Club Kampala, we managed to speak to the community leaders who helped us in our COVID responses. Immediately, we turned our centers of operation into food. And the help of the fund have fund to food for the poor people. We gave out about 1 million and 500 food called the Musajja Lumbwa village, one of the slums in Kampala. The community leaders there just called us. They just contacted us and they're like, please come in. We have already lost three people died of hunger in these communities. So luckily, we went into these communities, supplied them with food, but also installed wash points in these communities. So our impact was that we have a lot of food to keep these people moving. But also as the lockdown continued to ease a bit, we managed to negotiate further with the community leaders to ensure that our projects continue running. So we opened up our carpentry project. We opened up the knitting and sewing school. Currently, actually, also the centers where we have early education for all are also operational. We have been able to evolve and adjust so quickly to benefit the poor people. Thank you, Linda.
Great, thanks, Sam. And maybe at this stage, we could share our impact video.
We asked ourselves if we've been there before the virus and we've been able to help these communities, why do we run away at the time like this when the virus is there and the lockdown is declared, when these communities need us the most?
During this period, we've been able to supply study materials to all children on a sponsorship project. So learning has been ongoing even during the lockdown.
During COVID-19 lockdown, we managed to rescue a number of 35 children from different forms of abuses.
I have been able to finish and graduate in this situation. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Joe. And that's a true, sincere thank you to all our supporters. It wouldn't have been possible without everybody's support. And I mean, last year was particularly a fantastic year for Kids Club Kampala in the way that we were able to respond to the real community needs and community desires, but certainly the community needs as well. And just to say that our work continues this year in a very similar mode. Maybe Sam can just tell us a little bit about what we're doing now, and then I'll just cover what our plans are for this year, and then we can share that with you, Sam.
So right now, we are still continuing to give food. Our food banks are still operational. We have the children back in their classes. We're still paying school fees for children to go to their schools. During the lockdown and the entire COVID time, we have had a lot of domestic violence, and I think this has been globally across the whole entire world. In Uganda, it's been the worst. And so we have so many children being abandoned and so many cases to respond to. So currently we have widened a bit our safeguarding project. We have safeguarding officers on standby, but also we have counselors on standby to counsel and guide families through what they are going through. But also we want to see that we continue to work so hard to make sure that families don't continue to fall down below the poverty line. And at the same time, we want to make sure that all the children are safe and they have a safe place to stay. But above all, they are able to be educated, to be able to help themselves, as well as helping their families and their community. Thank you, Linda.
Great, thanks, Sam. Maybe Joe, you can show the slide with our 4 pillars, and we've called it the road to recovery. So it's the road to recovery from family projects in Kampala. So our first component is feeding, and Sam will continue to provide food for families as long as they need it, knowing that this is a very immediate, urgent need for families to be able to be food secure in their households. So we will continue that as long as we're needed. The second pillar is around protecting, and as Sam mentioned, we're doing a lot of work around safeguarding, keeping children safe, having safeguarding officers in the community, and reaching out to those who need support and safety. And then the third pillar is educating, so that's increasing access to education. So continuing our school sponsorship program, some children are reintegrated into the Ministry of Education system. but a lot can't afford to go to school because education is not free in Uganda. So we will continue to provide education for those vulnerable families that cannot afford the system and integrate it into the system. We're not creating a parallel system, we're creating a system for vulnerable children who can't access the formal system. And finally, our fourth pillar is around skilling, and that's about building the capacity of women and men to increase their livelihood opportunities by providing them with vocational skills training and training around business. So there are 4 components for this year. We would hope to build back better and build more resilient families and communities in the slums of Kampala. It's ambitious, but it's possible and it's necessary. And you know, that's really important. That's we're driven by the necessity, but also by the community spirit and the communities who really want to be engaged and to support themselves as well. So we have our team here in the UK. Sam and the team in Uganda are doing all the fantastic work, working with those communities to you know, build a better road to recovery for those communities. So just finally, Sam, just on a final note, maybe you can tell us what your vision is for Kids Club Kampala and Uganda for the future. Big question.
Well, I know, but it's a good one. It's a good one. Well, our vision is to be able to see that all children access education. No family falls below the poverty line. And then on the other hand, we want to see that the slums are actually eradicated. The 3 areas we envision as an organization. Thank you, Linda.
Thanks very much, Sam. And it's great to hear it from you because you're the one on the ground who knows the real story. And it's fantastic to hear the stories from Kampala. So thank you for taking the time because I know it's late, a little bit later at night than it is for us here in the UK or Vienna. So thanks for taking the time. So let me hand over to you now, please.
Yes, thank you so much, Sam, and thank you, Linda, as well. I think we've got a bit of time, so if you do have any questions, you know, we'd love to hear them. If you just want to pop them in the chat box, then I can kind of direct them to Sam or Linda, and whoever's the most appropriate. So, or you can choose to unmute yourself as well. That's also fine if you're able to do that. Thank you, Bernard. So how can we support Kids Club Kampala? So I think I can take that one. Thanks for that. So, I mean, just by completing and volunteering with Mars in Their Shoes, you've made an outstanding contribution, and hopefully you've learned a lot about what life is like for a child living in Kampala at this time. In terms of further support, if there's any other volunteering that you think that you would like to get involved with, if you have any particular skills that you think you could offer Kids Club, whether that be video editing or designing, or, you know, we're really open to suggestions. I'd say that would be amazing. And then the other thing is, of course, fundraising. So we're always looking for people to get involved with different fundraising initiatives, and we provide lots of support if you wanted to do something as a team, a group of friends or a group of colleagues, or if you wanted to do something on your own, you know, if you fancy doing another challenge, or if you just want to spread the word about Kids Club Kampala, that would be amazing. And hopefully you can see that, you know, we've been around 11 years now, and we've come from a place of kind of love and hope and community, really, and that's what we still are today. And really it's about just spreading the word about what we're doing and trying to reach as many new people as possible to share that message and hopefully get those slums eradicated eventually. So yeah, thanks for your question. And we just want to keep in touch with you, really, and to stay involved with you. So do get in contact with us. We're a big family, and yeah, we'd love to continue to have your great support. Do we have any other questions? Okay, that's wonderful. So if there are no more questions, I suppose we'll close for today. It's also really wonderful to have you all on our mailing list. So if you aren't on our mailing list at the moment, it would be wonderful if you could join us. So I'm just getting the link right now. Here we go. So I'll pop that in. But as I say, we're a friendly bunch and we're really grateful to be put in touch with you all, and we hope to really stay in touch, because now that you've been involved with us and contributed so much, you're now part of our family. So yeah, we look forward to working with you and hearing from you in the future. And yeah, please do stay in touch.
So there's one question in the.
Did I miss it?
I just spotted one question there.
Oh, so I wonder if there are any further walking challenges planned. Not currently, but we will be running another Miles in Their Shoes in the summertime if you wanted to get involved with that again. But I suppose there might be something in the pipeline. It's something that we're always thinking about, kind of being innovative and thinking of new things to do. Otherwise, Claus, if you wanted to organise your own, or if there's some kind of challenge that you want to do or take part of, we would be more than happy to support that. So yeah, you can just drop me an email, and yeah, we'd be very happy to support you in fundraising that. So I'll just pop in my email. There you are. Did I miss any of this? No? Any more questions? Thanks, Kay. All right, I think that might be it then. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you're watching this back on video, hello to you too. Thanks so much for taking the time to share with us and hear more about the work that we're doing. And a big special thanks to Sam joining us all the way from Kampala. And it's now actually quite late for you there, Sam. So thanks so much for your dedication as always. And yeah, it's wonderful to see you all. Please do keep in touch. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.